Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is relational evolution, I think. Now I got to check. Yep, that's it. Relational evolution. So what in the world is that? Relational evolution is recognizing that in our own personal growth process, we're not isolated. We're actually part of a greater system. We impact that system, it impacts us. And I am inviting everybody to explore with me what it looks like to be more present to these relational dynamics. So should be fun. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your molecules, all your electrons, creating a brilliant beam of light and energy from your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's press our palms together. Rub your hands vigorously together. Feel that friction, the heat, the tension, the texture. And when you stop rubbing them, feel all that tickling and tingling and allow yourselves to become present right here, right now, into this remarkable physical form that enables you to experience life. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's so good to be here with you. And so we're talking about relational evolution. In other words, nothing happens in a vacuum. I don't know about you, but I have tended to kind of see my life as its own little bubble in a lot of ways. And there's some safety and security in that somehow for me. And maybe, you know what, as I'm speaking that, recognizing the interconnectedness that we cannot avoid has an intimidation factor to me initially, and then comes maybe some safety and comfort from that. And by the way, if you guys are trying to comment and I don't respond to your comments, it's because I don't see them. So if you want to comment and you want to participate in the conversation, please go to the Enlightened World Network Facebook page, and you should be able to put your comments there, and I should be able to see them, hopefully. So, and if I see them, I will respond to them. So, again, let's look at relational evolution. So what I'm present to is, and I talk about this, but I sort of don't necessarily presence myself to the reality of it all the time. I talk about how when we elevate our own consciousness, when we elevate our own awareness, we are shifting the field in which we reside, which is a globally, universally interconnected field. We can call it the morphic field, a la Rupert Sheldrake. We can call it the field of energy, the field of life, the field of possibility. But as I really believe, and it's a working hypothesis, you know, it's not saying that it's the truth with a capital T, but I do believe that as we shift our consciousness, we shift the field, that each of us has an impact on this greater field, and certainly on our more localized field. So as we heal, people around us seem to heal miraculously too, you know, energetically or emotionally. As we elevate, it's remarkable how the people around us shift, you know. It looks like everybody else is changing, and maybe they are, as we change. So that's kind of a fun thing. Meantime, when we look at our impact, and this is, I think this is where the scariness is recognizing that we all have an impact, whether we're trying to or not, whether we're orchestrating it or not, whether it's the impact we desire or not, we all have an impact. And recognizing that dynamic and that responsibility can be very challenging or frightening, you know, to be realizing, oh my gosh, you know, I have an impact. And to consciously and deliberately engage on a level where you are expanding that impact carries a greater responsibility. So the notion of relational evolution arises for me out of an understanding, a deepened understanding of the work that I've been doing. It's in a course with the Regenesis group, and it's called the Regenerative Practitioner Series. And I've spoken about that with you before, but one of the things that is foundational to that work is that a system or a project or an action, a thought, an organization is only regenerative if it is working on kind of 3 levels of relationship at least. So what does that look like? I don't know if you've heard of the word holon, HOLON, but what it's talking about is nested holes. So for example, a cell is a whole thing in and of itself, and there are bunches of cells that make up an organ. There are bunches of organs that are part of a body. Each of these things are individual things, but they don't exist outside of, I mean, and that, but their existence is relational. Like a cell by itself isn't gonna survive very long, or it's not really performing its function. The cell nurtures the organ nurtures the body nurtures the organ, nurtures the cell. There's this intertwined relationship. And in our journeys of personal growth, we think about it as personal, right? We think about it as related to our individuality, our separateness in its way, even though so much of our personal growth is directed to creating connection and creating unification. we still see our growth as personal, right? And it's dawning on me how there's no such thing as purely personal growth, that our paths, our evolution is always in relationship with other systems. So, for example, as we change, people around us change. Why is that? Well, part of why people around us change is because the way we interact with them, coming from a new state of being, calls forth different responses, right? It opens up a new field of energetic possibility. And as we, like, if we don't, if we were, oops, I just dropped my ring. Let me see. Ah, there it is. If we are typically angry and reactive and resentful, the way that we be, the way that we act is going to be very different from if we're feeling open-hearted and loving and connected, right? We're going to act totally different. We're going to be creating a different energetic field around us. We're going to be interacting, relating to the environment in a very different way. So I just want to mention, if you guys are trying to write comments and I'm not responding, it's because I don't see the comments. So please, if you want to be engaged with the conversation, go to the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and put your comments there, and then I'll see them and respond. And it's so funny to me, actually, this is a riot, right? I'm talking about relational evolution, and there's nobody else here talking with me today so far. So that's pretty funny. It looks like it's in isolation that, I'm having this conversation. Hopefully somebody's going to see it at some point and it's going to impact them. So here's the thing, and they'll relate to it, hopefully, or you'll relate to it in some way, shape, or form. And maybe it will shift the way that you're perceiving something or the way that you're responding, and then that percolates out beyond. So I think it's very interesting. We talk about in this regenerative model, it talks about the thing or the project or the person or the issue, and then what's called the proximate whole, which is the immediately surrounding community or environment, whatever that container is for that initial thing, and then the greater whole, and the greater whole contains the proximate whole. So really what it's talking about is nested levels of relationship. And each of these levels relates to the other, just like the cell and the organ in the body. And so, we could think of this group is the conversation, and then the folks that engage in the conversation maybe as the proximate whole, like the smaller group, and then the greater whole is everybody else who's participating or recognizing or listening at another time. And then there's a greater whole than that, which is their environments and their worlds, each individually. And so when we look at our evolution and our relationships as impact that ripples out ongoingly, it brings up what could be, in some respect, a paralyzing sense of responsibility. It's like, oh my gosh, how is this going to affect other people? And so I'm talking, as I'm talking about this, I'm talking about it to achieve a greater and deepened awareness of it within myself too. But what I'm realizing that is that as you look at these tools, or as you look at the fact that we have an impact up and down a chain, that it occurs whether or not we intend it to, then uh, a couple other principles of this practice come into play, and they are internal remembering and or self-remembering, is to come back to ourself, come back to our center, which is something that we talk about here together all the time. And external considering, which is endeavoring to the best of your ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes. The irony about that is we're always in our shoes, even when we think we're putting ourselves in somebody else's. But it does expand our range. It expands the idea is to expand our experiential and perceptual capabilities. So by trying to imagine what must be the case for you, I'm projecting, there's no question, I'm projecting, but I can gather data that helps to support my perspective. But if I can step out of judgment, so this is part of a personal discipline, spiritual growth kind of thing, perhaps too, is to step out of judgment, to try to step into the beingness of another, to imagine what is it to be that person, and to imagine what it is to see the world through their eyes. And from that vantage point, there's an opportunity to have a richer understanding of some of the dynamics that had been polarizing, is to get, oh, wow, I get how they might see this way, and holding those different levels of awareness, those different sources of awareness, holding them and allowing ourselves to move beyond the polarity of them, allowing the energy of that polarity to generate something new at another level, is a very, very, very powerful thing. And I mentioned that the experience or the awareness of the impact that we make, like recognizing that we make an impact, could be paralyzing, because it's like, oh my gosh, am I doing it right? Oh my gosh, Jenny, thank you. It's so good to have you here with us this morning. You are the very first comment that's appearing on today's feed. It's great to have you with us. We are talking about relational evolution and what that means. I just thought it was so funny that was the topic, and here I was all by myself for half of this morning, right? But I'm so glad you showed up, and we're looking at the impact that we have. And in our process of personal growth, we imagine that it's personal. And the thing is that it's actually relational, because as we grow and we evolve and change, we also, our growth impacts our interactions, right? And so it's happening in relationship with others. And so I was just talking about self-remembering. I'll bet you are, Jenny. Jenny says, I'm going through personal growth. And you know what? We all are, hopefully, right? And I don't know if it's going through it, but we get to be enlivened and engaged by it and often challenged by it, this personal growth thing. But the thing that we're looking at today is how personal growth isn't just personal, because as we elevate our thought and our being, we elevate the field in which we reside. And really, that field is interconnected. Oh my gosh, Jenny, this is amazing. Jenny says, I'm talking with my daughter. So Jenny, I just want to acknowledge you, because somehow there's been a breakthrough for you in your field, I believe, that made space for that to happen. So somehow you have shifted that in a way that has allowed other things to shift. And so this is a perfect conversation about relational evolution, that as I, for instance, if I have wounds and resentments in certain relationships, if I bring those wounds and resentments and the way that I present, then I'm creating one environment, versus if I'm connected and grateful and loving, it's a whole different energy. So Jenny says she told me she loved me just before ending a phone call. Jenny, congratulations. That's so beautiful. And it sounds like maybe what's happened is you have made space to actually be able to receive that too. And that helped to evoke it. I'm just don't know that that's the fact, but I'll put it out there as something to look at and see if it has any truth for you, if it rings true in any way. So talking about relational evolution, it's remarkable how we can shift ourselves and the world shifts. You know, at the very, very least, our perception of the world shifts. And then there's the question of, is the world, do we have any other way to access the world than through our perceptions, which are filtered quite heavily through the lens of our beliefs and values and emotions and traumas and history and all of that. So what we get to look at today is really how we impact the field, and how by elevating ourselves, we elevate the field. By healing our resentments, we elevate the field. We may not know what those holes are, but family is an obvious one, right? Like we have ourselves, we have the proximate whole of our family and all the dynamics that are part of that family. And then we have that family within a greater community or a series of greater communities. Jenny says, when you try to control everything, you enjoy nothing. That's very well said, Jenny, because the truth is we can't control much of anything. Not really. And the other thing to look at is what is at the root of the impulse to control. what are we bringing to the field? What are we bringing to our lives? Where are we vibrating, so to speak, when we are trying to control things? Control, or the drive to control, is fear-based. So Jenny says sometimes you just have to breathe, breathe, let go, and live in the present. Well, that's a really good thing not to do like all the time. If we, the more we can do that, the more we're able to really be the expression of life we came here to be. So about this responsibility thing, recognizing that we're a part of systems, that we're part of this greater interplay and interaction, is to allow ourselves to be more fully the unimpeded expression of life through our unique vehicle that we are. That the more fully we can express our essence, the more fully we can be connected to our inner knowing and our inner deepest drives that aren't colored by all our wounds necessarily, the things that light us up, then the more aligned we are, the more purely we're able to be an expression of life, expressing itself through our unique instrument. So Jenny says to be the best version of ourselves. Yeah, exactly. And I to let go of who we believe ourselves to be so that we can become who we truly are. To let go of all the ideas and beliefs about how we have to be, should be, to allow ourselves to really truly be what we are, without all the overlays of judgment and condemnation and all of that. So to become more fully and wholly ourselves. And with that, relational evolution. It takes mindful work, Jenny says. It does, indeed. It does. And sometimes it's really painful to see ourselves, because we have all kinds of judgment about it. So we get to evolve past that, right? Anyway, that's it for this morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. Please check out the other awesome programming on Enlightened World Network, EWN One with the Earth, Enlightened World Living. And Jenny, so good to be with you this morning. I'm so delighted that you joined us, and everybody else who has listens and engages with these conversations. So much appreciation to you. And I hope to see you again here really, really soon. Until then,